What's up, everybody, and welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Proud to be here with you every single Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Hope you're having yourselves a tremendous morning this morning, and we are continuing those conversations that we have had for many, many years. Syracuse Orange football alum have joined me throughout history, and I am always elated and very appreciative of the opportunity I have to speak with alumni from all different pieces of Syracuse Orange history. Today, we will be welcoming two defensive backs, and makes perfect sense because Syracuse just hired a defensive backs coach. So, inside of Ma and Pa's Popcorn What's Poppin', we have the opportunity here this morning to start the broadcast picture-in-picture with Will Hunter, who played for Syracuse and the NFL at corner, and then we'll jump into our conversation later on in the first hour with Syracuse DB alum Darius Kelly, who will be joining the show to give his thoughts, both talking about Fran Brown, the hiring of Fran Brown, as well as the defensive back connection that they have there. And we'll get into the Orange moving forward and thoughts about what Syracuse needs to do to move in the right direction. We've had a lot of conversations about that. Now that there's a new head coach, we can have that as part of this conversation as we get set for the 2024 upcoming season. And, of course, for recruiting and the transfer portal and all of that. In hour number 2, as always, Papa Joe will be joining the show as PJ and I talk about the Syracuse hiring of Fran Brown, get his thoughts. We go forward from there to the college football playoff, as well as championship week for college football, the NFL Week 13, our picks, and Jacksonville playing on Monday night for the first time in 12 years. So, with that being said, it is my honor and my privilege to go picture-in-picture with Mr. Will Hunter, Syracuse cornerback alum, who also went on to the NFL to speak on Fran Brown and more. Will, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, and Will,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I'm happy to be here with you. Happy to have this time with you. Your thoughts, initial thoughts, first reaction. I mean, there was a bunch of things going out there, a bunch of reports, some false reports per always. And then here comes Fran Brown's name in the 11th hour, and he ends up getting the job. Your initial reaction to that?
I guess I wasn't, personally, I wasn't very familiar with his work. But based off of a lot of the stuff that, like you said, that's out there, it sounds like he did really well at recruiting at Georgia.
Yeah.
So, one of our issues has been for many years, probably over 20 years now, at least in my eyes, it feels like it's been recruiting. So if he can bring some of that, to our program, I think, we'll be fine.
And you look at that and you see that side of it. I mean, when John Wildhack, the Syracuse director of athletics, when he had made comments, and I was there asking him questions with the rest of the media when he was talking about the search, he had stated that he wanted someone with Northeast ties, and we know that Fran Brown has worked at Temple twice. He's from Camden, New Jersey, as well as the fact he's worked at Rutgers. So that building that connection and that bridge, he said Northeast was important, but he also said he was looking at hiring a head coach. He said he would consider coordinators, and outside of coordinators that he might look at assistant coaches. Well, in Fran's case, he gets the Northeast ties, but he doesn't hire a coordinator. He doesn't hire a head coach. He hires an assistant coach, a position coach. Your thoughts on that?
I the only way to get experience is to actually get experience. So not saying that, this young man is coming in and, has to start from scratch. I'm sure he's going to surround himself with knowledgeable people. And honestly, that would be the first thing that I did, considering that I didn't have head coaching experience. So one of the things you want to do is you want to bring in somebody on your staff that has had, some head coaching experience so you can rely on them. Even if you're not going to bring them in on staff, maybe a consultant or anything. I've never had an opportunity to be a head coach in college, so I don't know the experience that he's going to have to go through. But I can guarantee you this, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
So he's going to need somebody that he can pick their brain from, or somebody that can help steer the ship a little bit, at least until he can get his feet wet.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, having somebody that you can pick their brain and go to them. We know who the head coach is going to be, but are you excited about the extension of this now? Excited to see what are his connections, who are his people, because people talk about it all the time. I'm sure you've thought about it, saying, "Hey, if I was ever the head coach collegiately, if I was ever out there professionally with an opportunity like that," we all kind of have those thoughts of this is who I would hire. This is who I would bring in. So are you excited to kind of see who his people are?
Of course, of course. I mean, he's got he's got a huge fan base here, and I'm sure we're all looking to see what's going to happen next. We're all a little bit nervous about what can potentially happen. Again, this man came from Georgia, who's had a successful program for the last few years and longer, actually. But we don't know what he can bring to us. Like, we've had coaches in the past that have had success elsewhere, and then they've come here and it's been something completely different. So I mean, I guess I'm at a wait and see approach right now. I'm rooting for you. I want you to come in and be successful. But at the same time, I just kind of want to wait and see, what you're going to do, what are your moves you're going to make.
Yeah, and they're through this process, like I said, fake news that comes out and different things that happen. Dan Mullen's name was the first name that came out. I told fans repeatedly it was a bad fit. It didn't make sense. I had a fake journalists, just ream me and yell and scream and hear all the reasons why we should hire Dan, and Dan is the greatest and he's going to get hired. And I heard from somebody who told me that somebody said that he's going to make it. When you follow through all of that, and I didn't get apologies from a single one of those people, but when you see something like that, how do you react to it when Dan Mullen's name was all over the place and you find out he didn't even interview for the job?
Yeah. I think I've heard Ed Orgeron as well. Both of those guys have coached here in the past. But same situation when those guys were here. They weren't head coaches. They weren't necessarily recruiting this area as well.
Yeah. So,
it was interesting to see. It would have been, I don't know if it would have been pretty cool or not to bring those guys back. But, it all helps, man, because people want someone that technically has a big name. And to be honest, I don't know if that's necessarily the answer. The answer is we need a guy that can come in here, that can sell the school on the community and the community on the school, and recruit. I mean, we need players in here that are capable of playing ACC football, especially and that was one of the other things I heard too, that we should get out of the ACC. Well, I mean, I don't think that's the answer either. Yeah. I just think we need some athletes that can actually compete against these guys in the ACC. And one of the things I noticed too about Coach Baber's staff is that every year there was some kind of turnover.
Yeah.
Got a new coach coming in, or a new coach leaving, new guys coming in. So you're going to need a staff, just like you have to build your recruiting up and you have to have players that can play in your system for a few years to be successful. You need the staff to stay as well. Because the minute you change staff, now you're developing a whole new philosophy for your team. And it's almost like starting over every single year. And you can't really have success when you have to keep starting over.
You bring up a big point, and it's something that I had talked about a lot on the show. And speaking here with Will Hunter, Syracuse cornerback alum, on the hiring of Fran Brown as well as the Orange moving forward. To look at the Dino Babers era, you mentioned something that had been on my mind, is that every single year of his 8 seasons at Syracuse, he didn't have the same staff. People were constantly leaving. There was constantly this revolving door of who's coming in, who's going out, who's getting fired, who's staying, who took another job somewhere else. Immediately, Sean Lewis leaves, right? We saw that happen so quickly, his offensive coordinator. So, I mean, what does that tell you about a coaching regime when the staff doesn't stay together?
Either your staff is really good and people are pulling them because they're really good, or you as a coach aren't setting the tone and the culture for your staff to want to stay. I think in our case, it was the latter. Unfortunately, he didn't do a good job of keeping those guys around. I don't know if it was based on incentives or whatever it was. I just think that was one of the major issues that he's had as a coach, and probably, and I wasn't in a room with those guys, but I'm sure that came up when they made the decision to let's move on from him.
Yeah, and I mean it's been an interesting last couple decades, right? And the firing of Paul Pasqualoni seems to have started all of this. It arguably is Syracuse University's biggest blunder with their football program. It seems without doubt to me that that was the biggest mistake they've ever made. It put them into the last 20 plus years of turmoil. And now Syracuse, it's like, just make a bowl game, get to 6-6, get to 7-5. How ironic is that for you? And what are your thoughts on it when you have a coach get fired who I think had one losing season and then was 6-6 his last 2 years? You fire that coach who had so much success only to hire a bunch of coaches that you just want to get to a bowl game. I mean, to me,
Right.
it's pretty crazy how you say you don't meet our standards at 6-6, and then you hear the director of athletics, John Wildhack, say that our standard this year was 7-5.
Wow. I wish I'd heard that. Wow. So we're settling for mediocrity, which is unheard of for our program. We have such a huge history. Wow. To only want to be 7-5 on a season, that's crazy. I played for Pasqualoni. So from 98 to 2001, we went to a bowl game. And he went to the bowl game even prior to that. So, our senior year was 2002. We didn't do so well, mainly because we didn't have, again, going back to recruiting. We didn't recruit very well our last few years. And I think that's what ultimately bit Coach P, is that his recruiting wasn't the same as it was. But at the same time, I think, with Coach P, I think he needed to step away. Not because he wasn't being successful, but because, it felt like even our last couple of years, it felt like the game was changing a little bit, and Coach P wasn't necessarily changing with it. So I don't know how you allow a coach to step back first and then come back in, but maybe that could have been an option. I don't know. But I think, the fact that we've since been trying to find that coach shows that we kind of made a bad decision back then.
Yeah, I mean, and Coach P, I mean, he came back for Dwight Freeney being honored this season at the Boston College game. Coach P came back to be there with Dwight and came out onto the field. And I can honestly tell you, I mean, Coach looked good. He's always tan. Jesus knows that man's down south all the time. But,
right.
He's tan. He looks good. And I couldn't help, because I'm a Coach P kid. I mean, I grew up in the community, and it was the end of Coach Mack, and then I had Coach P, all the way through my childhood and high school and going to college and whatnot, a part of college. So when I saw him, every bone in my body wanted to run out to him, hug him, and say, please come back. Just please come back.
Right,
right. So what can you tell us about Coach P and about the inner workings of Coach P? Because to me, it just seems like Syracuse kind of threw itself in the fire instead of anything else pushing Syracuse into it. It seems like they kind of created their own destiny up to this point when they let him go.
Mm-hmm. Coach P, one thing he would do is instill discipline and structure. His biggest thing was make sure you where you're supposed to be. And that don't mean showing up at the exact time. That meant you need to get there at least 5 minutes early to be prepared. And I think that kind of helped, guys understand. Because when you first come into college, it's, you coming from high school where you're the man. You have all kind of freedoms. And then you get to college, and now you're like, hey, like, this guy is a warden. I don't think that hurt us. I think it helped us in the long run, not even knowing it, but that structure helped on and off the field. And I think that was one of the things. Again, I don't know what Dino Babers was doing. But to me, just watching it, it didn't look like he had that part of it down pat, where guys believed in him, believed in his system. It was going to be where they're supposed to be at all the time. So I think, we kind of, like you mentioned, we set ourselves up, but at the same time, you never know. You go out and you get these coaches, and and they sell themselves to the organization and to the school and say, "Hey, I can do these things," and then you give them a shot, and then you find out later that they can't. And again, one of the biggest things, man, that I keep going back to it is we got to get some guys in here that know how to play ACC football. Yeah. We don't want to just recruit guys. Syracuse has such a rich history. We should be getting 4- and 5-star recruits, not celebrating 2- and 3-star guys.
Well, and I also think that Syracuse was getting no-star, 1-star, 2-star, 3-star guys, and they were developing them correctly. They were bringing guys in that came out looking like 5 stars, looking like 6 stars. Donovan McNabb wasn't a 5-star guy. Rob Drummond wasn't a 5-star guy. Rob Conrad wasn't a 5-star guy. You weren't a 5-star guy. Will Allen wasn't a 5-star guy. Kevin Johnson wasn't a 5-star guy. So, I think Keith Bullock, Arthur Jones, Chandler Jones,
right.
Jay Brown, Justin Pugh. I mean, it seems to me that you need a coach who can create an identity for Syracuse and stick to it. We've had the orange is the new fast. Then orange slows down. Then let's run. No, let's not run. Hey, let's have a quarterback that does it. No, let's not have a quarterback that does it. Let's run this defense. Let's read and react. No. Let's attack. No. Let's 3-3-5. So, I mean, do you feel like this kind of, I guess if you look at the Into the Spider-Verse movies, right, that are out right now, there's those glitches, right? They're in a world and then they glitch. It seems like that's what Syracuse has been over the last 20 plus years, has been this like, we're going this way, and then they glitch and it becomes something else, and they glitch and they end up over here. I mean, do you feel like Syracuse is suffering from an identity crisis because different coaches are trying to create different identities, but then the same coach within their tenure, in the case of Dino, created like 2 or 3 identities. So do you feel like Syracuse is suffering from not truly knowing this is who we are as a program?
Yeah and no. Yeah, in the fact that all the reasons you just mentioned. And no, in the fact that, it goes back to the coaches coming in and then having revolving doors. Yeah. Again, go all the way back to Greg Robinson. Even when he was here, you had different coaches coming and going. And it's been that way. The head coach might stay the same, but the coordinators and the position coaches, they're all leaving. Nobody's staying around. So it's kind of hard to say, okay, I'm going to use this defensive coach or this defensive coordinator style throughout the years. And then you got a new defense coordinator. Now that guy wants to start something completely different. So, again, it goes back to the fact that, we haven't had coordinators that were staying. We haven't had position coaches that are staying.
Yeah, and as we move forward here, like we talked about, looking at Fran's staff and who he's going to bring in and what he's going to do, there's been this disconnect between the university and the city, the university and alumni, right? There's Syracuse, and I was born and raised in Syracuse, New York. I mean, there's Syracuse, New York, and then there's this castle on the top of the hill that kind of shut all of its doors and lets its drawbridge down every Saturday and then pulls it back up. So what is your advice to Syracuse University to how they treat the city and how they treat the alumni? Because here is another shot. It's another chance. It's a fresh start. I know there's a lot of alumni out there because I talk with you guys all the time. There's a lot of people out there that are saying, okay, it's a new head coach. Maybe they'll let us in. Maybe they'll love us. Maybe they'll respect us. There's people in the city going, maybe they'll care. Maybe they'll, create more opportunities. Maybe this will be more fun and more welcoming. What is your advice to Syracuse University now that there is a new chapter to be written?
Wild Hack has been here for a while. And since even when Babers was here, uh, I know my particular class, well, let's go back to, I think it was 98 or 99 or whatever. Um, they brought us in, but that was several years ago and haven't had any, invite to the program since then. I've spoke to a few position coaches over the years. Some have actually left after we spoke. But there was never any invite of alumni to any events. I think, I can't speak to any other schools alumni, but the guys that are in my circle from here, we all say the same thing. We don't feel love from our football team. And one of the ways I believe is to recruit is to show those guys what they'll look like after college, not just in college. Like if you want a 5-star guy, let's say he playing quarterback, you want to introduce him to McNabb, for example. You want a guy that's a pretty good running back coming out of high school. You got Rob Drummond right down the road there, who's more than welcome. He'll absolutely come up to the school and sit and speak with that young man. If you got a defensive back, again, I'm local. I'm never going to, stop, loving my school and trying to help them. But at the same time, I'm not going to, force myself into the equation. The school has to reach out to us if they want our assistance. And that's how you build your programs up. You keep your alumni involved because you never know who we know. And we never bring a kid in. They recruited a couple people from my hometown. And I found out after they had already been here that they were here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So had they, again, I'm local. Had they known that, and I'm sure they do, they still have some people on the staff up there at SU that know that we're still local. Hey, Will Hunter's he's lived here now. He's from Chester. How about we get him to come in and speak the same language as this kid? And then you bring them to your staff or your students to show them the campus and stuff like that. I do think we're doing a huge disservice by not allowing alumni to assist with the program. We're not looking for anything from you guys. We just want to feel like we're part of something. We're part of the growth. As far as the city goes, it seems like you're right. It seems like SU has decided we're just going to focus on SU and not focus so much on the community around us. And that's a huge mistake because you have a whole bunch of kids here specifically surrounding the school that are underprivileged kids.
Yeah.
And if you can reach one of those kids, you've done your job as a university. So I think they need to do more community involvement things. And it can't just be during the season. Do it in the off season when, the school or the athletes' schedules aren't as heavy, where they can spend some time in the community. Make it a community service project for some of these guys to get out into the community. I understand that, there's a whole bunch of compliance stuff that has to take place, but, you need your community behind you, especially when things are getting rough. Look at the last few games we've played at home. The stands are empty because we're not believing in the program anymore, and the program isn't doing anything to come out in this community and keep us engaged and keep us involved.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point, and with NIL now, I mean, if you can go out and you can go to Dunkin' Donuts and say, this is my drink, and you could do that in the community, then you can go to the inner city and you can help out a kid. I mean, that's reality. And I also look at the fact that Christian Brothers Academy under Casey Brown, I mean, they're fighting for a state title this weekend, and he had over 20 schools come on campus that aren't named Syracuse. I mean, they had offers galore of places in the Northeast, places outside of the Northeast. Sire Torrance is, he's getting recruited all over the country. And I think that, this whole narrative that there's nobody in Central New York, there's nobody in upstate New York, there's no one in the state of New York, there's nobody in the Northeast. I mean, like you said, you're from Chester, PA. if Syracuse had neglected Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and so on and so forth, there's a ton of guys that would have never been here. I mean, you look at when they went to Ernie Davis, where was he? Elmira, New York. I mean,
Right.
it's not, and even some of the guys from Ohio, it's not that far away, right? You come out of Pennsylvania, come out of Western PA, and there you are in Ohio. So this whole, you don't need to recruit the Northeast, everybody's got to recruit the South. I mean, the reality of it all is if Syracuse recruits Florida 99.99999% of the time, they're never getting the best DB, the best wide receiver, the best running back, the best quarterback from Florida. But if they go to New York, if they go to Central New York, if they go to Pennsylvania, if they go to Connecticut, there's a shot they could get the best offensive lineman, the best running back, the best quarterback, the best wide receiver from the Northeast. And when people say it doesn't work, it worked for BC. It's working for Schiano at Rutgers now. It's worked for the Big Ten, who has recruited the area and consistently come here. The notion that there isn't anybody good in the Northeast has been refuted by the fact that some of Syracuse's greatest and most successful teams were built out of the Northeast. So, Will, kind of as a final note here, John Wildhack says, I want Northeast ties in my next head coach. He echoes my sentiments that I've been screaming for God knows how many years, and Rob Drummond when we talk about it on the show all the time. What are your thoughts about the notion that the Northeast has such minimal talent that you shouldn't even waste your time?
I think it's foolish. Being involved in the community in many of the aspects that I've been involved over the last few years, I've seen the talent firsthand. Yeah. We do have some talent here, some guys that can go on and play at the next level. I think it's foolish to neglect it. But I think at the same time, man, these guys, they have to put themselves in the same positions as well. We have to have these coaches getting heavily involved in the recruiting for some of these kids because they don't. Most of them don't know how to put out a highlight tape. Most of them don't know how to reach out to a college that they're interested in. Again, our community that we live in now, we're underprivileged. A lot of it is poverty surrounding the immediately school, so we don't have that support coming from home to help these kids and to even show them the direction that they need to go when they start getting themselves in front of colleges. Now, again, it shouldn't just be based on the parents themselves. It's a complete involvement of everybody. You got to know how to get in front of coaches, and you got to have the support system to help you stay in front of these coaches. And I think that's one of the things that we can do a better job of in the community as well.
Yeah, I think everything goes hand in hand, and shutting out alumni to me has made no sense. I don't know any other university or college that has ever thought to themselves, let's get rid of all of the people that helped to build what we have. I wouldn't have a job here today if not for these people, but let's not talk to those people. I've never understood that mentality. But Will, I mean, I'm so happy you're in our community. You and I need to do more face-to-face stuff. You've been on the show and you've been gracious with that, but I'd love to have you out at some of the different places, restaurants that we work with, and I'd love to be able to sit with you, continue these conversations, and show the community what it's like to physically go out into the community, because I do that all the time. I know that you've done that in your own way in different jobs and different things that you've done. So I think the next step for us is to have you on a stage somewhere where we can talk about this stuff and expand this conversation. If you'd like to do it, I'd love to have you.
Absolutely. I'm all for it. Just let me know when and where. I'll be there.
That coming from Will Hunter, one of the best in that back line for Syracuse's defense, heading off into the NFL after that. Will, I appreciate you. My best to you and your family during this Christmas and holiday season, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Thanks, bro. You have a good one, man.
Hey, you too. Take care. That coming here again from Will Hunter on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Appreciate having Will on the show. And as always, can't thank him enough, can't thank the alumni enough for being a part of the broadcast here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. When you want to hear from alumni and you want to hear about the people
Recording
that
in
built this
progress.
program, be
Recording
it 5
stopped.
years ago, 2 years ago, 30 years ago. You can come right here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and have these conversations and enjoy this time together. So, speaking of enjoying time together, we're going to take a step aside so that we can enjoy some time together with Mr. Darius Kelly right after this.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the Whole Frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Happy to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And it is my honor and my privilege to bring this gentleman in picture in picture with me here on the broadcast, and that being none other than the man that they call Darius Kelly. He knows what I call him. He knows that, obviously he's Darius to me, but he is also the second coming of Kevin Hart, in my opinion. So I'm always happy to have Darius here on the show, and we're bringing him in here picture in picture with us so that we can have a nice conversation here this morning. Mr. Kelly, how we doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing very well, and I appreciate your patience here as we got Will on for a few minutes. But Darius, this is an exciting moment for Syracuse. It's an exciting opportunity for Syracuse. It's the next chapter. It's a fresh slate, a clean start. But before we get there, the last 8 years, Dino Babers, your takeaways of what we've seen in almost a decade.
Yeah, from what we've seen, I think just a lot of ups and downs. We've seen a lot of good things. Let's just start there. There's been a lot of things we can be proud about, a lot of things we can hang our hat on, a lot of big wins, a lot of potential. I say is but the biggest word I think we could use is it's been there. We've seen glimpses of greatness, and we've seen glimpses of just not finishing, not be able to get it done. But I just think it was just a lot of potential, a lot of untapped potential. We never reached where I think we should have been. And just with the talent level, the way the schedule was set up, just not be able to finish and get things done. But some good things, but just to me, not fulfilling our fullest potential to get things done for sure.
Yeah, and you're a former student athlete at Syracuse, so when you see that it's almost there, but it's just not there, what do you attribute that to? I mean, I know you're not in the locker room, but are there certain themes that you can go back to and say, if a team has it, but they're just not finishing it, that these are some of the areas of culture that you can work on? Is there anything that kind of translates from team to team?
There's it could be a number of things that could trigger that type of thing, just not being able to get done. Maybe some not all the way bought in. That ties a lot to a lot of things. Not being able to get a team to buy in when you have a new coach, but injuries play a lot to that as well with the team as well. I think over the past few years, there's been a number of injuries that throughout the season, towards halfway through the season, that just hurt the team. But buy-in, preparation, all those things play a toll into not being able to get things done when you need to get it done for sure.
So we see this move. You're a defensive back alum at Syracuse. The new head coach is a defensive backs coach. Your thoughts on that? I mean, it's kind of a cool connection for you and the other DBs in the history of Syracuse and the current guys to see a DB coach come in as a former DB. Thoughts?
I think it's huge. I don't think we had a defensive mind coach in some time. For a DB coach, and for me also being an African American coach, being able to relate to some of the guys in the room and from the things that I've seen of him so far and things that I've read about him, he seems like someone who cares about his team, cares about his players, cares about the development, cares about more than just them as football players, but about how they're going to be, after the game is what's really going to be important. I think that, to me, I haven't heard that from a coach at Syracuse in time that is really dedicated towards the development of the team as they're leaving, as they're there, and the things that they're going to be doing outside of football. And I think that's going to go a long way just for one, recruiting. That's going to bring in a lot more recruits who want to play for you, for one. A lot of guys, especially the family side of things, families coming in and wanting to send their children off to Syracuse, New York, upstate New York, and be trusted with their coach, developing them not only on the football field, but off the football field. So I think that's going to be huge for the program just from that standpoint. And again, for being a DB coach myself, as I am right now, and being an ex-DB, I think it's just huge for that alone. I don't think we normally see that too often, right? I normally see a DB coach come in and be able to take a head coaching position. I think it's going to be good for the program overall.
Darius Kelly, Syracuse Orange DB alum, here with me to speak on the Fran Brown hiring and the Orange moving forward. One of the things that came out, and Syracuse has used this, right? They've put this out here and set it in different areas. Number one recruiter in the country. That's subjective. Yep. It's not objective. And there's also the reality that you're recruiting to Georgia, you're recruiting to the SEC, you're recruiting to a national championship caliber program. The year before they won back-to-back national championships, they were at the Chick-fil-A New Year's Six Peach Bowl, and I was there. And Cincinnati almost beat that Georgia team that had a lot of those players and had Kirby Smart. So I got to see that team, and then you see that team again, and then you see them again in what they've done in recent history. Do you take it with a grain of salt when you hear number one recruiter in the country because, he's not the only person recruiting to Georgia? They could be coming there because of him and Kirby Smart. They could be coming, because of Kirby, because of the OC, because of the DC. They could be coming because the weather's nice. They could be coming because, Georgia's playing in the college football playoff. So how do you take that number one recruiter in the country? Because it's a lot different to recruit to a national champion college football playoff caliber team than it is to recruit to a Syracuse team that has just been getting by at 6-6.
Right. And you got to look at it as, how is it going to correlate to, a Georgia SEC Georgia #1 team in the nation to a Syracuse? It for one, we're not necessarily, we want to go after the same type of kid. You want to recruit the same type of player, but at the same time, you're not necessarily recruiting the same type of kid to a Syracuse and a Georgia. But you got to look at it from a standpoint of, okay, who Fran Brown is. Who is he as a man? Who is he as a person? Most of the time, you have to look back to my recruiting days, right? The difference between the schools that I chose to go to and schools I didn't choose to go to was the coach that was recruiting me, the relationship I had with him, the relationship that we built throughout that recruiting process. That goes a long way. And when it comes down to a recruit choosing from one place to another, and having an opportunity to go from one place, is going to come down to where I feel comfortable, where I feel like I'm going to be treated the best, where I'm going to feel like I'm going to be developed, and that goes a long way. And might not bring in the #1 recruiting class at Syracuse, but with that relationship and having somebody who can build up the recruiting team around him and show them ways to get kids in the building, is going to go a long way, and it's going to move wherever Syracuse is ranked in recruiting right now. It's going to go up a couple of notches just because of who he is as a man, as a person, and places that he's been so far. So it's the notch is going to move just from a recruiting standpoint and being able to get the athletes that we need to be successful.
I got to ask you this, Darius, and we'll take a break from Fran for a second here because you're from Arizona, right? Born in Arizona. You're back in Arizona. I was down in Arizona recently, had never been to the western part of the United States, had never been to Arizona, had never seen my Diamondbacks play in front of my face. I've been a Diamondbacks fan since they came into the league in 1998. And I brought my dad to the World Series to Game 3. So I got him, and I had never been to Arizona. We had never been to Chase Field, never been out there to see the Diamondbacks play firsthand at home. I saw them play on the road one time in Toronto. So what are your thoughts? I know you and I have never talked about the fact that I was a Diamondback fan, but did you go to any of the games? Are you a Diamondback fan? Do you like it? Do you like the energy and what it brought, and what's your take on the fact that I finally got my butt out to Arizona?
Well, first we got to talk about how you didn't hit me up when you came to Arizona. We got to talk about that.
You've been
first.
up here. You've been up here, did the same thing, man. I'm gonna hold you accountable too.
We got to talk about that. But no, I mean that during that time though, it brought a lot of energy. Just naturally being from Arizona. I mean, when our team is in a championship game, any type of playoff standpoint, we have to root for them. We have to go for them. We have to support. But the energy during that time was huge. Having the Diamondbacks go as far as they did, especially coming from the year before, where we just weren't doing that good, and teams we weren't being successful. So for us to go all the way to the World Series and do what we did is huge. It's huge for the city. I think all of our sports teams now are improving. So naturally, I'm becoming more of an Arizona sports fan just because I've been here for a while and we're improving. But it's just always a great energy in the city of Phoenix when our sports teams are doing well, and that could be for any city, but I think especially here in Arizona, the fans here really rally around the teams when we're doing well, and sometimes when we're not doing so well as well. So yeah.
And what I took away from it that I think I could maybe hopefully hear one day in the Dome is that when the team's losing in Arizona, the fans were coming out. I mean, my dad and I are walking out of Game 3, and I'm around Syracuse fans all the time, the real fans and the fake ones. And so I don't ever want to be around the fake ones. They just seem to come out of their little troll holes, and then they go back in. So coming out of an Arizona game, Game 3, they lose. We're walking out. We're going down the staircase, and people are chanting, "Let's go D-backs. We'll get them next time. We got this. Hey, it's going to be okay, guys. We've done it before. We'll do it again. We believe in this team. We got here. We'll move forward." And I looked at my dad and I go, "Do you hear that?" And he looked at me and I go, "Those are fans positively talking about their team in a loss. They didn't say, oh, we suck, the season's over, I hate this team, I can't believe we embarrassed ourselves, we got here and now we're not going to get anywhere else. I mean, it seems to me that in Arizona, when they lose, they're like, hey, we still love you. And Darius, I would love to see that in the Dome, because you know it, I know it. In the third quarter, if Syracuse is losing, half the Dome walks out the door. So, I mean, what do you want to say to the fan base now that there's a new head coach? Because you and I both know this. If a recruit comes to visit Syracuse and they see people walk out on the team in the third quarter, the fourth quarter, and then they go to Notre Dame and they go to Penn State and they go to Florida State and they go to Florida, they go to Texas, they go to, NC State that sells out from season to season. If they go to Syracuse and see half of the state or half of the fan base walk out on them, we're kind of looking at a world where I think it's really hard to recruit. So I hear fans say all the time, we want the best of the best recruits. And I always respond to them, if you walk out of the Dome, you're never going to get them, because they're not going to play for a fan base that walks out on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that is always an important piece, right? Is going to a team a program or a university that fully supports their team, the players that are on the field, no matter what. And as a former player, there's no worse feeling than going out there, giving it your all, no matter what the score is, and you're just giving it your all. You're prepared all week. You've actually been preparing all year throughout the summer, and to go out there and you have a performance that's, as a player, it's not a good performance, right? If you're losing, you're not. But when you see your fans walking out, there's no worse feeling than looking up and seeing people walk out on you as the game is not even completed yet. That's so to what you're saying is, there's, as a player, former player, and being a recruit, that hurts. So that has to change. That has to be a total buy-in. Everybody has to believe in what you're doing, no matter what the score is, and it goes a long way, Yeah. And I would love to see that change, not only just at Syracuse, not only, but just in sports in general. People just have to understand the amount of effort that teams are going out there, the players, the coaches that go into every single week, no matter win or lose, the amount of effort that you put into to go out there on the field on a weekly and daily basis. There's no other. I'd say there's nothing like it that's what it feels like out there. So I hope that changes overall, just in sports in general.
We live in a world, and you've been coaching. You've I'm sure experienced this in some way, shape, or form. We live in the NIL world where there's, collegiate athletes are making money now on their name, image, and likeness. We live in a world where the transfer portal has essentially made NFL free agency in college. So how do you look at recruiting and sustaining and building a program when there is so many individualistic things going on in a team sport?
Man, that's a tough one. How do you manage it? As a coach, right? If I'm running a program and those type of things are going on, you just have to go back to your core values as a coach. Yeah. What are the things that you stand on? This game has not changed, right? This game has been the same for 100 years. What it comes down to is blocking, tackling, and executing. And that's what it comes down to. And, and as a coach, you have to keep instilling, team. Everybody has a role. Everybody has something that they have to do that it ties into winning. So you have to go back to those core values. That's how you manage it. What do you stand for as a coach? What do you want your program to stand on? If it's going to be individuals, it's not going to work. And it's been proven. When teams are as individuals, they don't succeed. And that's what you have to stand on as a coach. You have to stand on as a program and make sure those things are instilled throughout every single person that walks through the door. And make sure those things are instilled throughout every single person that walks through the door. And make sure those things are instilled throughout every single person that walks through the door. And make sure those things are instilled throughout every single person that walks through the door. And make sure those things are instilled throughout every single person that walks through the door. And make sure those things are instilled throughout every single person that walks through the door. And make sure those things are instilled throughout every single person that walks through the door. And make sure those things are instilled throughout every single person that walks through the door. And make sure those things are instilled throughout every single person that walks through the door. And make sure those things are instilled throughout every single person that walks through the door. And make sure those things are instilled throughout every single person that walks through the door. And make sure those things are instilled throughout every single person that wal Because if it's not instilled in every person that walks through the door, it won't work. And that's the bottom line. I don't care who's getting paid what, who's getting this, that, and the third. If the people who are walking through the door aren't bought in and understand the one goal at hand is to win, it just won't work no matter who's getting paid what and what is doing what. So you just got to stand on what you believe in, and hopefully it's just the right morals and right attitude going towards the game. But back to the transfer portal stuff, that is it's a real thing. And I coach high school football now, and it's not only hurt the high school level, it has hurt the college football level as far as recruiting. We've had about 4 scholarships pulled just because of the transfer portal. Yeah. High level Division I offers that are kids that have committed, that have been pulled just because of the portal. So hopefully we get a grasp on it, because the game has changed because of that. The recruiting process has totally changed because of it. So it's hopefully we can get a grasp on it and things start leveling out, and which I know it will. It always has. It'll start leveling out, and we get back to a normal type of recruiting process when it comes to football.
How hard is it to get your kids recruited now, no matter how good they are, because of the portal?
Oh, it's extremely hard. It's you got to think about it like this. I mean, as a college coach, if I can go get a kid who has been playing college football for the past 2 years, has proven himself, has been in the weight room, has been developed, if I can go grab him instead of a 18-year-old kid, who may pan out, it's an easier decision at the college level to grab those kids. It just is. It's just naturally that way going to be easier. So when it comes to the high school kids getting recruited now, their thought process has to change. It's always this D1 or bust type of mentality. So now that has to change for kids out there right now. You have to accept, okay, I might have to go play at a lower 1AA or even a D2 school to come out and go do the things that I want to do just because of that. I mean, you got to look at the running back at Missouri right now, right? He was a Division II running back a couple years ago. Now he's at the top of the SEC as a running back. So the mentality of the D1 or bust has to change, and because of the portal, it's they're going to go get kids who have been proven and played for the past 2 years. That's just what it is.
Myself here with Darius Kelly. Darius, before I let you go, a couple final points here that I'd love to speak with you about. As an alum of Syracuse, we know the disconnect between the university and the city, the university and its alumni. Every time there's a new coach, there's a hope that things will get better. If Fran Brown was watching right now, what do you want to say to him about being an alum and what you hope for?
Yeah, I mean, I love Syracuse University. Love Syracuse University. I loved every minute I was there, no matter whether or not it was good or bad. There's nothing more that I want to do than to come back to the university, be able to pick up the phone and call my university and know what's going on at my university and know the goals and plans and understand what's going forward. And because of the time that I spent in those doors, the hours that I spent in the weight room, the hours that I spent in the film room, the hours that I spent in the classroom, there's nothing more that I think, not just only me, that all of the Syracuse alumni would want to walk back in there with open arms and feel like I'm a part of this family, because I have a certain tie to the university. I do. I put in the time. I put in the work. And, and I would love to walk back through those doors and just have open arms because of the time that I spent in there. And I know that that's every single person that is putting in any effort and time into that university, and I can honestly say I haven't felt that, and it would be great to have that change throughout the next couple of years, because I know the amount of effort I put into the university, and I know for a fact everyone else that has walked through those doors would love the same type of opportunity to feel that same type of love from the University of Syracuse football program, for sure.
Yeah. Something that should have never come to this moment, and hopefully Fran Brown can change that. Remember that you got to recruit the future, but you also got to recruit the past as well and bring those guys in and celebrate those guys. Darius, as always, most important thing is family. Congratulations on being a dad once again. I know you got videos with little man out there doing his thing. So, I mean, how is life being a pop? Because it seems like you guys are thick as thieves. It seems like you got a nice little mini-me running around.
Yeah, he is definitely 100% all. Okay, I can't take all 100%, but he is definitely mine, man. He's my little guy, man. I love having him around. He's a good time. He's getting to that age where he's starting to understand a lot more. He's starting to talk. He's starting to see, who we are as parents and family, and being able to individualize every single person and be able to tie things together. So it's just amazing to see like the development of him. And it's just been so much fun, man. It's actually moving way too fast. He's already 2 now, but the development and him talking and just going for it, man, it's been amazing. It's been a fun ride. So I just wanted to slow down just a little bit more, because it's going too fast now, but it's been amazing.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I love seeing you happy. That's what means more to me than anything. So, DT with DK, man. When you come up here next, you better give me a call. And when I come out to Arizona, I know I will. My dad and I literally flew in on game day, flew in on that Monday, went to the game 8 in the morning and got back on the plane. So it was it's a very quick turnaround. But you and I need to get some more FaceTime. It's been a minute. But as always, I got all the respect in the world for you. Love you like family, and it's always an honor for me to be able to talk with you, and I know you know that, but I want to tell you that again.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you always, Dan. I always appreciate you being on your show and giving me your time, man. Always great.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, keep rocking the Cuse out in the West, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Give little man a hug from Uncle D, all right?
I got you.
All right, be good, man.
All right, you too.
See you.
See ya.
And coming from Darius Kelly one more time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. Got to take a quick step aside. When we come back, Papa Joe is with us, our third and final guest this morning on Wake Up Call inside of MaandPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. Make sure you go to Ma and Paz today on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York for your gift baskets that are there for you or ones that you want to put together with popcorn, kettle corn, and all of their amazing treats and favorites. There is something for every taste bud at Ma and Paz, 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Head out there today. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9 K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to K9 Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox.
If I had to describe it, I would like to say welcoming and kind of homey. Like, I feel home when I'm here.
Here's a special message from North Star Nutrition in North Syracuse and Nutrition Wave in Cicero on their very unique shakes and teas.
I always ask them, are you looking for a shake or a tea? Like, are you hungry or do you need a little bit of a pick-me-up? And then from there, I normally gear it towards whichever they prefer. So I say we offer full meal replacement shakes. They're 24 grams of protein, 21 vitamins and minerals. So the vitamins and minerals in that shake make it a full meal. And you'll stay full for about 4 or 5 hours. And if they want a tea, then I'll tell them that there's either 115 to 200 milligrams of caffeine. I would compare it to maybe 2 cups of coffee, and I explain all the benefits that are in the tea. Like, they have B vitamins to sustain your energy all day long. They have a tea for mental clarity and focus. They have a thermogenic tea to help boost your metabolism, burn calories. Aloe is great for nutrient absorption and digestion, and I say there's other flavors in it for the pretty colors and flavors. I always ask them, like, what's your favorite lollipop flavor? And then I'll go from there, and I'm like, well, believe it or not, there's less than a gram of sugar, and it's good for you. The shakes, I say it's like your favorite candy bar or your favorite ice cream, because you've had them. It genuinely does not taste like a regular protein shake. This was the first yes that I've ever given, because I've always been like too shy or too scared to like talk to people or anything, and this just kind of really opened me up. I've stayed here so long because I just love seeing everybody's faces, having them like sit down at the bar and just telling us little tidbits about their life. You really have no idea what's going on in other people's life, and I feel like this job specifically really puts it into perspective and just kind of helps you enjoy other people's presence. As like a young adult and as a person, I have learned so much working here. Like, to me, it's way more than just shakes and teas.
For healthy drinks that taste amazing in a welcoming atmosphere, head to North Star Nutrition on 628 South Main Street in North Syracuse and Nutrition Wave on 6197 State Route 31 in Cicero. Open 7 days a week at each location. What it do, people? Happy to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And it is time for Papa Joe. That is right. PJ, the grand old smooth one, the go-so, the one that I have handpicked and chosen to be with me every single Thursday because he's awesome. So with that being said, Papa Joe comes into the broadcast, the wealth of knowledge, my encyclopedia, and somebody that I appreciate so very much, here with us to talk about Fran Brown getting hired by Syracuse. Championship week, believe it or not, in college football this weekend, going to decide a lot of things. Going to decide some New Year's Six bowls, going to decide who makes it into the college football playoff. A lot of good things coming up. We'll talk about the CFP and the implications there. Our college and NFL picks will come to you, and we'll talk about Jaguars on Monday Night Football. And I don't know if Papa J knows this, but it's the first time that the Jaguars will be on Monday Night Football in 12 years. So, with that being said, let's bring the man of the hour into the broadcast. PJ, how we doing?
Good morning, Daniel. Sorry about
Yeah,
but you're going to have to stick aside.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's not as bad as some people think, and it's not as bad as it could have been. So I'm totally fine with it. But let's hop right into it because we got a ton of things to talk about. So Fran Brown gets hired to Syracuse, the defensive backs coach of the Georgia Bulldogs. He is considered the #1 recruiter in the country. People might ask, why did you not write that in your story, Dan? It was written in so many other stories, and it's all over Syracuse's website. So why didn't you write it? Because it's subjective. I wrote it because I did not write it because it is subjective. So, I mean, right, it's like world's best coffee. There's a ton of places that are going to tell you they have the best coffee in the country, best coffee in the world. But how do you know? Are you going to visit every city and try their coffee? Are you going to visit every country and try their coffee? No. Most of you will never go around the world tasting coffee, so you don't know who has the world's best coffee. It may be good to you, but it may not be the world's best. And in the case of Fran Brown, I'm excited that he's coming to Syracuse. I'm looking forward to what he could bring to the team. And so this is no knock on him whatsoever. It's just a conversation in general. I would say it about Dan Mullen, Fran Brown, Bob Chesney, Jason Candle, whoever, wherever. When they say this person is the #1 recruiter in the country, that is an opinion. So, PJ, your thoughts on Fran Brown and your thoughts on Syracuse kind of driving home this thing that we got the #1 recruiter in the country?
Oh, I don't know about all that, Daniel. I don't know much about Fran Brown. I certainly had to look him up when you brought that to my attention about him. I thought that the guy from Holy Cross was going to be a slam dunk, and frankly, I think he's a better choice because he's been a head coach. He's been successful. But Fran Brown has Kirby Smart behind him. So I guess if you work for Kirby Smart, you got to be smart enough to work for Kirby Smart. So
Yeah.
plus he's black, and he can recruit. So there's a lot of good things to be said about the guy. I'm sure he's a nice young man. But if you come from the Kirby Smart tree, you got to have some pretty good intangibles, and that's probably what he's got. Now, as being the #1 recruiter in the country, that's BS. I think we all know that, but it doesn't matter. If you can write about it and people read about it, then some people believe it. That's good, and let's see how he can recruit in the Northeast, especially in New York, where I really have an issue about Syracuse not doing anything. I know I get you going on that and you start ranting, but I just, there's so many high schools in this 3-4 major cities in this state, and there's got to be some good football players there. And Syracuse can't recruit them. Come on now. I don't want to get started on that again, but Fran, if you're listening or you want to listen or you're going to listen on tape or something like that, get your boots on the ground, bud, and go see if you can hustle some players.
Yeah, and I've spoken with a lot of the alumni about, that Northeast, that local recruiting, the importance of recruiting locally and taking care of your backyard. And John Wildhack surprised me when he said, we're looking for a coach that has Northeast ties, because all of the moves that he had made up to this point didn't make me believe that mattered. And, so having that happen, him say, hey, we want somebody that's connected to the Northeast, that understands the Northeast, that understands the community, that's something that I can appreciate. And Fran Brown has had a connection to the Northeast, hailing from Camden, New Jersey, where he was born, and then, being at Temple for 2 different stints with the Temple Owls and working with the Rutgers Scarlet Knights as well. So we know that he has definitely had his connection to the Northeast. Now the question is, what is that going to look like? What does that, turn into? Does that turn into recruiting up here? Does it turn into success in the recruiting? And, does it turn into positives? Is he going to get guys to come from the local community, from New York, from Pennsylvania, from Connecticut, from New Hampshire, from New Jersey, and Massachusetts, and so on and so forth? So that's left to be seen what's going to happen in that respect. But, the hope is that something will come of this, and there's some positives that will happen from this, PJ. But, here goes Syracuse. They said they wanted Northeast ties. That's what John Wildhack said. but he also said that he preferred a head coach. If not a head coach, they would look at coordinators, and that they may look at some assistant coaches. Your thoughts on an assistant coach, a defensive backs coach, jumping from assistant coach over coordinator straight to being a head coach?
You're asking the man to do an awful lot. I mean, he's obviously got a good background in football, and I'm sure he's well, I don't know. I don't want to get involved in that. I guess he's recruiting himself to be a coach, jumping over the OCs and the DCs. It's a tough situation, and he's going to be under the spotlight from the get-go. There's going to be a lot of people going to be anxious. They're going to be happy for him. They're probably going to hit the ground running, and kids are going to be excited. Parents are going to be excited. And then all of a sudden the season comes, and then now you got to prove it on the field. So I don't know. I really was looking forward to the Holy Cross guy to get it, frankly. I sent you a little note when this gentleman was named, and I said another coach on the cheap. I don't mean that to be derogatory at all. It's just that Syracuse is not going to pay anyone that's nationally known, nationally known and successful. They're probably going to get this young man cheap, of course, and he'll coach for as long as he can. If he's maybe really, really successful, they'll bump him up a little bit. But, to bring in the Dan Mullins that you said, or some of these other people that we're talking about, you're talking millions of dollars, and Syracuse just doesn't do that. And they proved it over the years. They will not sign a coach and pay him a lot of money. I don't know what Babers was being paid, but anything more than $1 to me is a lot of money. So I think he's going to be. He certainly is nice. He comes across well, speaks well. There's other people. There's other men that are more qualified than Fran. And again, I'm not only be derogatory. He's a good coach. I'm sure he's probably going to do well here. But there are other guys that Syracuse could have looked at and signed, or at least talked to, and brought him in for an interview to get some opinions. And there's a lot of head coaches out there in small schools that are just looking to jump up to a big school like Syracuse. Not a defensive back coach. Oh, come on. I wish him luck. I'm not going to say anymore. I'm sure that he's probably got a plan. And if I were him, I'd take Kirby Smart out to the Roadhouse and have some supper for about 3 hours and pick his brain on everything that he needs to know. He's probably been doing that already, maybe getting himself ready to be in a situation like this. But for a defensive backs coach to jump over an OC and a DC, go to the coach, it's a pretty big jump. So he's got some national coverage. I mean, he's bounced around a little bit. And, I'm sure that he's got a plan that he wants to instill, and part of that's going to be what the Kirby Smart formula is. So we'll see where it goes from there. Daniel, you're going to have your tentacles out everywhere. Have you talked to this young man yet?
No, the introductory press conference of when we're allowed to speak to him is going to be this Monday. Okay. Well, you'll probably get a better look at him and a better way. Maybe throw some tough questions at him. I mean, look at it. This is a big move for Syracuse again. They got rid of a guy I thought was stagnant up there. You did too. And they're going to bring in a nice, cheerful guy, and everything's up. Hopefully he's got the answers to the questions that he's going to be thrown at. Yeah, we'll see. PJ, before we jump to championship week and what's going on in the rest of college football, wanted to throw this at you and get your thoughts. Dan Mullen was a name that was brought up. I couldn't understand it. I told you this repeatedly, that I couldn't understand why the so-called Orange fan base, because I know there's true fans out there, and I know there's people that, are just anarchists. And so when you look at back in the beginning, I didn't understand the whole Dan Mullen thing. I don't know if he was the most tweeted name. I don't know if somebody just caught on to it. It seems like whatever name is out there, the most people believe it. Now, I check sources. I talk to people that I trust. I go through and don't just say things so that you click on my website. Dan Mullen's name was brought up over and over and over again, and I told people he's not the right fit. And I gave my reasoning. I told them who I would hire instead. And I, repeatedly was stating he's not the right fit. He doesn't make sense. If you're going to call him, you should have called Jimbo, yada, 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 so on and so forth. Well, we find out at the end of all of this that with all the fake news reports that he had interviewed, that he was up for the job, that he was this, that he was that, the reality of the fact is he allegedly never interviewed for the job and was never considered. So all of those people that were going nuts on social media, screaming, yelling, ranting, raving, begging for Dan Mullen to be their head coach, he was never even an option at Syracuse.
Well, good, because he quit on us in Florida, and he's hey, you got to watch him on ESPN and watch him as an analyst. I guess that's about all. He's a good football coach, no doubt about it, but in no way, shape, or form, Syracuse couldn't even pay 50% of what this guy had been earning over the years. He's right up there with the top coaches in a pay scale. So Syracuse is just not going to pay, Daniel. And you have to find that out for me. I've been wrestling with this for years. What do they pay? Why don't they pay? And how do they pay? What do they do? And I just hope you can get some answers for me over the years. I just don't. I don't have to understand the rationale. Some of them tell me, why don't you pay big money for a big coach? Why don't you do that?
Yeah.
Until someone comes up with an answer, I'll refer back to you because you got it. You got the answers.
Yeah, they're cheap. I mean, that's some people stay rich because they invest and they're smart with their money. Some people stay rich because they don't spend their money. So, the reality of it all is Syracuse has wanted and desired to win, but they haven't created the resources and the opportunities and have been enticing money-wise to somebody. I mean, if I'm Jimbo Fisher and Syracuse, and this is just as an example, but, I shouldn't be sitting here at 38 years old, 20 years a broadcaster and a journalist saying to myself, Jimbo's never going to come up here because they're not going to offer him that amount of money. And he's not going to have the facilities he needs. And he's not going to have the resources he needs. And he's not going to have the right people in the right places to do what he needs to get done. I've been around the university long enough to understand there are people that are trying to win national championships, and there are people that are just trying to get by. And I think that Syracuse is needing to get away from the latter and really start to focus on how do you win a national championship at Syracuse? How are you effective in the ACC? The thing that's sad to me is that some people will laugh and go, Dan, you think Syracuse is going to win a national championship? If you're not trying to go 12-0 every season, make it to your conference championship game, and play in the college football playoff, you should not have a football program. Because I don't know any other football programs that have the mentality of, let's be 7-5, let's get to a bowl game, let's sell some tickets to this bowl game, and then let's start it all over again next year. The reality to me, and not that that's what John Wildhack wants every year, that's what he had stated he was looking for this year, but the reality to me is that Syracuse has fought for mediocre, and they've achieved it. And they've now built in their fans that they can't win a championship nationally. They can't win an ACC championship. And I hope that Fran Brown comes in here, and I hope that he sprinkles that SEC pixie dust in Central New York, and I hope that he gets people in this school that say, hey, I'm not here to be 7-5. I'm not here to be 6-6. I'm not here to play in the Pop-Tart Bowl. I'm here to, and no offense to the Pop-Tart Bowl, I'm just saying, I'm not here to do that. I'm here to win a national championship. I am here to bring the alumni back. I am here to bring back the people that went undefeated. I'm here to bring back the people that are in the Hall of Fame. I'm here to recruit the community. I'm not going to let kids down the street go to other schools to the best of my ability. I'm not going to let the Northeast, we're not going to lose the Northeast anymore. It's not about New Jersey. It's not about New York. It's not about Massachusetts. It's not about Connecticut. It's not about Pennsylvania. It's not about New Hampshire. It's about all of them. I need a coach that is going to see that. I need a coach that's going to say it. I need a coach that's going to live it. I need a coach that opens the door to the alumni. I need a coach that tells Syracuse, yeah, you're doing construction and that's all well and good, but these facilities are not big enough. We are not doing enough. We need more donors. We need more support. We need more people in here. We need to be innovative. We need to jump in front of things and not just follow everybody else. If I was Fran Brown, I would bring John Wildhack on a plane and I would bring him throughout the ACC and show him all the facilities. Show him Florida State and the fact that their football facility looks like it's an airplane hangar that could have 3 jets in it at all times. I would make Syracuse see, if you're going to hire me and you're going to bring me in here, this is what we do in the South. This is how we win. This is what the SEC looks like. And you know, saying that you're doing construction on campus, that doesn't mean anything, okay? Because the construction is so many years behind. Even with the construction, it's not what they're seeing down in the South. And Syracuse has to be able to invest, spend the resources. They have the money. If this university says they're poor one more time, I'm going to ask for their tax records like everybody else is asking for other people's tax records. I am to a point right now where I don't want Fran Brown to come into a buzzsaw and he comes in with the right ideas and the right gumption and the right recruiting and the right model and the resources and all the things he needs, and Syracuse doesn't give it to him, and then people blame Fran Brown when in actuality it's a Syracuse problem. I think the university has a long way to go, and I'm hoping that Fran Brown will come in with the right message, the right tools, the right needs, and that they'll actually welcome it, because Fran Brown coming in is all well and good, but if they don't give him the resources he needs, he's not going to be able to do what he wants to do.
True. Look at some of the other. I just made a quick list while we were talking about some of the coaches that were hired. San Diego State gets Sean Lewis from Colorado. We know Sean Lewis was the offensive coordinator for prime time.
And at Syracuse.
San Diego State is no slime program. It's a good program over there. I guarantee you they're paying Sean Lewis a lot of money. Look at Michigan State, brings in Jonathan Smith from Oregon State. Michigan State is going to pay big bucks for Jonathan Smith, who probably was earning a lot of money at Oregon State. Jeff Libby from Oklahoma goes to Mississippi State. You're going to the one hotbed to the other. Your man Mike Elko from Duke goes to Texas A&M. Now, Duke's been known to be El Cheapo. What do you think Mike Elko's going to take to get that knocked down at Texas A&M? A pretty penny. Duke probably paid him well. Even Bobby Petrino, who probably won't ever be a coach again, but he's the offensive coordinator at Arkansas, and he's going to come in a couple million or more just to do that. So these men that I just mentioned are far going to outweigh the salaries and benefits that Fran Brown is going to get. And they're all in the same. You talk about a national pitcher. Syracuse, of course, is a national pitcher. The rest of these schools are national pitchers too. So it's difficult. It's difficult. I just hope the man does well, and you'll get a better beat on things when you talk to him on Monday, and maybe you'll come up with some answers.
Yeah, we're looking at who has been chosen. There's been some interesting hires around the country, and you and I could break these down in the coming weeks. But Mike Elko, who I covered at Duke and have interviewed at Duke, he is over at Texas A&M. He was Jimbo Fisher's defensive coordinator at Texas A&M. Then he left to become the head coach at Duke. He's had 2 really good seasons with the Duke Blue Devils comparative to what they had before record-wise. And so he was the DC under Jimbo. Jimbo gets fired. He goes back to where he was the DC. And now Mike Elko is the head coach at Texas A&M. Mel Tucker, who was fired for cause, according to Michigan State. Jonathan Smith from Oregon State is now the head coach. Zach Arnett, who was the defensive coordinator for Syracuse for about 3 days. He has been let go. And Jeff Lebby, the Oklahoma offensive coordinator, is the head coach at Mississippi State now. Look at Pat Fitzgerald, who was fired allegedly for cause by the school. And I say allegedly because it's the school's decision, and some of that stuff stays where it stays. So David Braun was the interim head coach at Northwestern. He is the only interim coach to become a head coach up to this point this season. And then Dino Babers let go at Syracuse. Fran Brown, Georgia defensive backs coach, getting the head coaching job at Syracuse after never being a head coach. And Jonathan Smith, who left Oregon State. Trent Bray, Oregon State defensive coordinator's head coach. He has never officially called a game at the FBS level. He's an interesting hire in the fact that he was the Nebraska interim coach for 1 week as they transitioned from Mike Riley to Scott Frost after the 2017 season. So Andy Avalos at Boise State, he's out. Nobody's in yet. Tom Allen, whose son played for HB Plant, the high school down in Tampa, and I know his son. Tom Allen is out as head coach of Indiana. Dana Holgerson, how about this? Dana Holgerson was in the Big 12 with West Virginia, leaves the Big 12, leaves West Virginia to go and coach in the American for Houston. He coaches 1 season for Houston back in the Big 12, and he gets fired. How ironic that moment was for Dana. Hopefully he finds his footing there and moves forward. Dana Gonzalez has been let go from the New Mexico Lobos, and we'll see what happens from there as that job is still open. And Brady Hoke, who retired, has left San Diego State, which we talked about. Sean Lewis, who was also the offensive coordinator and when Dino first came to Syracuse. Terry Bowden is out at Louisiana Monroe. Dana DeMel is out of his head coaching job at UTEP. And there's a couple more here. Mike Elko out at Duke, like we said, so that's open. And Rick Stockstill is out at Middle Tennessee. Former Syracuse head coach Scott Schaefer has been the defensive coordinator under Rick Stockstill for many, many years, so we'll look to see what happens there. Coaches that have been Rhett Lashley at SMU, who you're going to see in a wake-up call special broadcast this afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Central. Rhett Lashley has been extended at SMU. Dave Aranda has been retained by Baylor. Gus Malzahn was extended by UCF. Jeff Munkin was extended by Army. And Sam Pittman was retained by the Arkansas Razorbacks. So there's a bunch of jobs open, PJ. And what I can tell you is the teams that are playing within championship week, those teams have their coaches and they are vying for the opportunity, a bunch of them, for the college football playoff. And there's a lot of different things that can happen here that are going to make the college football playoff committee's decision very hard and might actually make them not select a Big Ten school who didn't play anybody this season. So we take a look at Friday, December 1st and Saturday, December 2nd. On Friday, December 1st, New Mexico State will face off against Liberty. New Mexico State and Liberty are both new to Conference USA, yet they're playing in the conference championship. Also, we will have the end of the Pac-12, the final Pac-12 conference championship, which is extremely sad to say, will be played this Friday, December 1st, when Oregon takes on Washington. So let's start with the Friday games, PJ. It is championship week. Who do you have for Conference USA, New Mexico State at Liberty?
Well, I've been following Liberty for a while, last couple of weeks, because they pop up in the top 25 when thereabouts. New Mexico State, don't know a thing about them. Is this game being played at Liberty?
This game, I'll tell you right now, the game is being played, I believe it's on campus at Liberty. It'll be in Williams Stadium, Virginia.
Okay. Well, with that being said, since I don't know much about New Mexico State, I'm going to go with Liberty in this one because it seems like that they're on a pretty good roll. They've always had some good coaches come out of there too. So we'll see what Liberty does here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Liberty as well in the Conference USA Championship. I mean, Liberty has just been a good team. I've gotten to see them a couple times come to the Dome. Got to see them when they had Malik Willis as their quarterback. Liberty has found a way. When their quarterback leaves, they're still successful, which normally, the quarterback has so much to do with the success of the team. If you get the wrong one, you know what happens there. If you get the right one, then, we know how that can go as well. Liberty had Hugh Freeze as their head coach. They lost him. They're still winning. They lost their quarterback. They're still winning. They're one of the only undefeated teams in the nation at 12-0, and I think they're going to stay undefeated, 13-0, and make a case for themselves to go to a good bowl game, and hopefully the committee will see their worth finally after barely supporting them in any way, shape, or form. Got to leave 15 spots for the Big 10 that only has 14 schools, but you can't figure out how to fit Liberty in there. So shout out to Liberty. I think they're going to win this game. Next game up, Oregon at Washington. Oregon has been spoiled before. Now Oregon could play spoiler to Washington. Washington could play spoiler to Oregon. This game is going to be at Allegiant Stadium, so it's going to be on neutral field. And Oregon and Washington are both fighting for the right to get into the college football playoff. Oregon is 5th in the nation in the college football playoff ranking at 11-1. Washington is 3rd and currently in the college football playoff if it were to happen today at 12-0. Who wins, PJ?
I'm going to watch 3 games this weekend. This is one of them. I can't wait to see Oregon and Washington play. I've touted Oregon all year long after what I saw when they did to Colorado when Prime first came onto the scene. And God darn, they play fast. And they're going to be a real problem. Washington's playing for the national championship. Oregon probably isn't. I don't know if Oregon wins this game. I don't know that Oregon is going to be thought of as one of the 4 teams they're going to use. But if Washington wins, they're automatically in. There's no doubt about that. Because they're undefeated. Excuse me.
Yeah.
This is a pick'em game. This is going to be a great game. Penix for Washington he's been in a little slump. I can't say slump. He's won. He just hasn't thrown the yards that he has been in the past. A couple 100, 300 yards, something like that. He's been known to go up to 350, 400, and 450. So if Washington gets going with Penix and Bo Nix gets going with Oregon, we could see a 49-42 game very easily. I like Washington here because they have the chance to make history for themselves and be part of the national championship. They can't be denied a spot in the Final Four if they win. Right. I just don't think they will. I like Oregon here.
PJ freaking you with the okie doke here, so he's going to go with Oregon to win this game. I'm going to go with Washington. I think, Washington has come on this season. Early on in the season, I wasn't really looking to them. I wasn't really thinking, okay, this is going to be the team that is going to vie for a national championship. But Washington, what they've been able to do and how they have played throughout this season, I look at the teams that they played and who they've beaten here. They went and played the Big Ten, played at Michigan State, won 41-7, went up against Boise State, won 56-19, and Boise is not the easiest team to play year in and year out historically. I know that Boise may not be what they used to be. They did defeat Oregon the first time they played them this season. They played them at home, and they won by a field goal, 36-33. So it's going to be an interesting game for sure. Definitely going to, I look at the run that they had, beating USC, Utah, and Oregon State 1, 2, 3 in a row, 52-42 over USC, 35-28 over Utah, 22-20 over Oregon State. What that tells me is if they score high or they score low, they're able to hang with teams. They've won a game 15-7 against Arizona State. They've won games by scoring almost 60 points in 3 of their outings here. They've won a shootout with USC, a relative shootout with Utah. They won a shootout with Stanford on the road. So, I just feel like Washington has been able to have the answer. They had the answer against Oregon before. I know it's really hard to do something twice. I completely understand that. But, Penix, for what he's done this season, 32 touchdowns, to 8 interceptions, almost 4,000 yards, 65.6% completion percentage, 12 touchdowns going to Dylan Johnson on the ground, 961 yards. He'll become a 1,000-yard back, you'd imagine. In this game, he'll get to 1,000 yards as he only needs 39 yards to get there. He's averaging 5.6 yards a carry. They have a 1,300-yard receiver in Rome who has 13 touchdowns this season and has 73 catches. And then you also have Polk behind him and Bernard behind that. So, I mean, looking at that, I mean, obviously both of these teams have weapons. There's no hiding the fact that they both have weapons. They both have abilities. You know, you talked about Bo Nix. We look at the other side of this with Bo, and, you know, I love the things like Bo knows. But, you know, Bo Nix is one of those guys who has, you know, he was on the national radar, and then I feel like he dipped a little bit, and then here he is again, 3,900 yards plus. He's probably going to hit 4,000 in this game. He has 37 touchdowns to 2 interceptions this season. Absolutely insane. They have 2 backs that have double-digit touchdowns. Bucky Irving and Jordan James both have 10 apiece. Bo Nix has 6 on the ground. And then Troy Franklin through the air, he's got 13-plus 100 yards like Rome for Washington. He has 14 touchdowns to Rome's 13. So this is going to be a shootout, I would imagine. I'm going to give the slight edge to Washington. I would love to see Washington back in the college football playoff. They've only been in it once. The Pac-12 has not been well represented in the college football playoff, and Washington got blown out by Alabama the one time that they were there. So I respect the heck out of Oregon. I think either team can win this game, but I'm going to give a slight edge to Washington to get the victory. Next one up here is PJ and I talk about championship week. Saturday, December 2nd, we have a slew of games. The Big 12, the MAC, the Mountain West, the SEC, the AAC, the Sun Belt, the Big 10, and the ACC will all play on Saturday. And Oklahoma State will face off against Texas, PJ. And Texas right now is trying to make a case that they should be in the college football playoff. In an expanded playoff, I believe they would be in. This game's going to be at AT&T Stadium, the home of the Cowboys. I've been there. Hopefully, a bunch of you are going there for this matchup. The Oklahoma State Cowboys have not played the Longhorns of Texas this season, but now here we are with the opportunity. Oklahoma State comes in 9-3. Texas comes in 11-1. The only game that they lost was to Oklahoma, and they defeated Alabama. So if Alabama wins the SEC championship and Texas wins the Big 12 and one of these undefeated teams ends up losing, now we're in a situation where who do you take? Do you take Texas or Alabama? Do you take them both? If Texas wins and Alabama wins, Texas beat Alabama head-to-head. So can you say no to Alabama? Because it should be Texas in that case. So I'd love to get your thoughts. Is Texas going to win this game? And then secondly, PJ, if Texas does win if they do win this game and Alabama wins and somebody loses, does Texas deserve to get in over Alabama?
Well, as we've talked about over the years, the committee is clueless.
Yeah.
So if to bring up the scenario you talked about, probably not. Oklahoma State is up against it. They're a good team, you know, but Texas, I'm sure Ewers is going to be back with them full speed. So Texas looks like they can score at will against Oklahoma State. You know, it's unfortunate. What you talk about is true. Now, Alabama-Georgia game will be for the national championship, folks. I don't care what you say. Now, Texas got by Bama at the beginning of the year, but they're not playing at the end of the year. That's a whole different story when it comes to Alabama and Georgia. So, in saying that, I think Texas wins this game. I think they'll win it rather easily too. But I don't believe that they'll wind up in the national championship series if Alabama beats Georgia. So it's unfortunate because, you know, the world thinks everything runs through Nick Saban, and that's probably what's going to happen here.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting. Do you have Texas winning the game? PJ?
What?
Do you have Texas winning the game?
Yeah, I have Texas, right.
So Texas to win this game. I'm going to give Texas the edge too over Oklahoma State. Texas, to me, this is very intriguing. Now, I wish that this was the first year of the expanded college football playoff, because if it was, then Texas and Alabama would probably be getting in, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But I mean, there is a team sitting in top of the top four that hasn't really played anybody this year. And Michigan, to me, if they win out, okay, great. And I know that people say, Dan, you hate Michigan, Dan, you hate the Big Ten. No, I don't. I would say this about anybody. If Alabama played a cupcake schedule and they were undefeated right now, I would say they don't deserve to be there. Why do they deserve to be there? You know, if you play a cupcake schedule, they don't let the Sun Belt in because they say they don't play a tough enough schedule. They don't let the MAC in because they say they don't play a tough enough schedule. They don't let the American in because they say they don't play a tough enough schedule. But Michigan played most of their schedule against unranked teams. So what are we talking about? They've only played one ranked team, Ohio State. Congratulations. Have a party. There's a lot of teams that play one ranked team a season. So, you know, to me, it's a travesty that the Texases and the Alabamas that I think would be better to watch than Michigan. There's a chance that neither one of them are going to make it. But I'm going to go ahead and pick Texas. And if Texas wins and Alabama wins and somebody in the top four loses, you got to put Texas in over Alabama because they beat them head-to-head. What's fair is fair. What's right is right. Miami, Ohio at Toledo. This is the MAC championship. Toledo head coach Jason Candle was interviewed for the job at Syracuse, but he did not get it. What do you have for this one, PJ?
Well, I don't know much about these teams at all, Daniel. I don't follow the conference at all. So I'm just going to go with Toledo.
Yeah, Miami of Ohio is 10-2 this season. They did face off against Miami. They lost to Miami 38-3. And you take a look at in the MAC to Toledo and what Toledo's done this season. They're 11-1. They lost to Illinois as their only loss. That was on the road. And they have not played a ranked team this season, including Illinois. And so for me, I'm going to go with Toledo. I'm just going to take them at home here. Toledo's been a team that has shown up over the years, and you know I think they're going to be able to win this game and take care of it. The MAC has not had a team that's been 12-0 or 11-1 in a minute, so shout out to Toledo. I think the Rockets get to 12-1. Boise State at UNLV, the Mountain West. What do you got?
Boise State and UNLV. Wow. I'm going to go with Boise State because I've always liked Boise State over the years, and I remember years ago when they beat Auburn and I forget Fiesta Bowl or something like that. So I'm going to go with Boise State.
Yeah, here's the crazy thing. Boise State is 7-5 overall. UNLV is 9-3. There was 3 teams that were 6-2 in the conference, San Jose State being the other one. These are the 2 that made it. So not great overall records, but how can you go against Boise State? And, you know, I just feel like Boise is that team throughout history that keeps it interesting, keeps it fun. They change coaches. They stay relative. So it's one of those programs that, you know, has built something there when you could switch your coach and switch your players, and Boise State still talked about. So I'm going with the Broncos to get this victory in the Mountain West. Georgia at Alabama. If Georgia wins, they're probably the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. If Georgia loses, they're probably still in the college football playoff. If Alabama wins, they're going to make the committee's job really hard. What do you got?
This is the game of the year right here. Well, there's a lot to be said about this game. 2 programs are just monumental. They're high. They're far and above the best programs in the country. And when they play each other, it's really for the whole enchilada. Alabama's quarterback, Milroe, I saw him last week, played a good game, threw a incredible pass to beat Auburn in the last second. The guy caught it in the corner of the end zone. He's been inconsistent, and Saban's trying to pump him up, saying you're doing a good job, you're doing this, you're doing that. And he has been much better than he was. Alabama should have lost that game, and we wouldn't be talking the way I'm talking now. because Alabama probably could, if they beat Georgia, will probably be in the top 4. They shouldn't be there because they almost lost a couple times this year, and they almost lost last weekend. They should have lost last weekend. Georgia just seems to play well whenever it counts. They beat teams of merit. They beat the cupcakes. They don't have too many cupcakes either, but if you look at their schedules, this is going to be a hard-hitting game. I mean, it's going to be a defensive struggle, I think. But I think Georgia has overall the better team. They have a better offense, defense, special teams. And the two coaches are about even. So, what do you do? I mean, you're safe to pick both of them, but that's not the way we had to do these things. I'm going to go with Georgia because they're on a roll. They've been on a roll for years, and until someone beats them on the field, they're going to continue on a roll. And I don't think they're going to get beat this weekend.
Yeah, you look at the up-and-coming Alabama Jalen Milroe at quarterback, 33 total touchdowns this season, 12 on the ground, 21 through the air, 6 interceptions, 2,526 yards passing, 439 yards rushing, 3.5 yards a carry. The Alabama Crimson Tide, like PJ said, they played in games this season where they just got by. They just got by Texas A&M on the road 26-20. They just got by Arkansas at home 24-21. They just got by Auburn on the road 27-24. Then you go and you look at Georgia and you say, what are them dogs doing? And the Georgia Bulldogs this season, they didn't just get by many of these teams. They 45-7 over UT Martin, which is a cupcake for them, 45-3 over Ball State, 24-14 over South Carolina, 49-21 over UAB. They face Auburn 27-20. It's a touchdown game on the road. They beat Kentucky, who was ranked at the time 51-13 at home. Took care of Vanderbilt without a problem. Took care of Florida by 23 points. Took care of Missouri, who has been a huge, huge rising team this season to the nation's top 10. Beat them 30-21 at home. Beat Ole Miss 52-17. Stopped the lane train at the station. Beat Tennessee 38-10. And had a really good game against Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech has been one heck of a team. And Syracuse lost to Georgia Tech 31-22. Georgia Tech lost to Georgia 31-23. So a little bit interesting here. I think Georgia's too good of a team. I would love to see Alabama win, not against Georgia. Like nothing against Georgia is what I'm saying here. I'd love to see Alabama win and Texas win so that the committee actually has to approach their biases and, gosh forbid, do the right thing. But at the same time, I just think Georgia, I've said it all season long, Georgia and Florida State have been the two best teams in the nation. Without Jordan Travis, it's tough for Florida State, but I consider Georgia to be the best team in the nation. And I think the best team in the nation gets a victory against Fly Slamma-Jamma Bama. This game is going to be played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Hotlanta, Georgia. So we'll see what happens here, and that's going to be a huge game. 4 p.m. Eastern Time on CB to the S. SMU will play Tulane. They're playing later, which I love this one. How about this, PJ? They're playing at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. The American Athletic Conference Championship has been carried on ABC for many, many years. SMU, this is their final game in the American because next season they will be in the ACC. They are 10-2 overall. They are 8-0 in the American. Tulane is 11-1, and they are 8-0 in the American. So we set up this matchup. UTSA in their first season in the American went 7-1. Tulane defeated them to secure their spot here. Tulane will be hosting SMU in the American. The top team gets to host every single year for the championship. Tulane's in the college football playoff rankings. SMU has been in the college football rankings. Their record combined is 21-3, and their record in conference is 16-0 combined. What do you got?
Terrific game. I don't know if I'll get to see a lot of it, but I'm going to see a little bit of it. Terrific game. Two really, really tough programs that have bounced around for years in sort of the second tier of college football. They've never been up to the Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State area. They should be sometimes. Tulane is an absolute monster the last couple of years, and I like them to win this game. and they'll probably wind up at a really Super Bowl too. So I like Tulane.
Yeah, the thing with Tulane is last year they won the American, and last year they went on to the Cotton Bowl New Year's Six, and last year they won the Cotton Bowl over Caleb Williams and USC, and one of the best games I've ever seen in my life, firsthand, on site, on location. I got to speak with the teams after the game, and it was absolutely phenomenal to experience it. I look for Tulane to go back to a New Year's Six Bowl after getting this victory, and to SMU. You know I love and respect you tremendously. It pains me to have to pick one of them because I think they both deserve to be in a fantastic bowl. I'm going to side with Tulane on this matchup as an impartial broadcaster, but Willie Fritz and Rhett Lashley, I have the utmost respect for you both of you gentlemen, very much so. Appalachian State and Troy. This is the third game at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. It's going to be on ESPN. All these games are going to be televised on regular channeling. You're not going to have to buy 75 cable packages to get them. Appalachian State is playing Troy in the Sun Belt. Papa Joe, what do you got for this one?
Again, I think these two teams I'm not really that too familiar with. I know Troy sometimes pops into some of the higher tiers and gives some of the bigger teams a good role. Appalachian State does the same thing, too. So both of these guys have bounced around again in the minor league tiers of college football. But I'm sure it'll be a good game. Unfortunately, my lack of knowledge won't allow me to expound any more than that, but I will say Troy.
Yeah, this one's really tough for me because Appalachian State has played – they've been a terror to some teams. They've played spoiler, but, you know, Troy has too, and I don't know if they always get the credit for it. I'm going to lean on Troy in this game, 10-2 overall. I'm going to have Troy getting their 11th win of the season, sending themselves to a nice bowl game out of the Sun Belt that doesn't get the respect that I think that it deserves. Michigan at Iowa. Oh, poor Michigan. How you have to play Iowa. Oh, man. What a tough season they've had. My Lord. East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers, Nebraska, Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan State, Purdue, Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State. Two of those teams are ranked. They're ranked every year. They're ranked if they suck. They're ranked if they're good. Penn State's in the top 10, whatever they're doing. Ohio State starts every season in the top 4. So the ranking means something, but it also doesn't because Ohio State didn't play a lot of ranked teams, and Penn State didn't play a lot of ranked teams either. But here's Michigan, 12-0 again, like it was set up to happen. What do you have, Pete? I mean, they got to win the games in front of them. I will give them credit for that. But to give Michigan this, oh my gosh, they're one of the best in the nation. Oh, they're amazing. You know, okay. Well, if you're a really good team and you play this schedule, you should win it every year. If Alabama played this schedule, I would anticipate they would be 12-0 or 11-1 most years. So here we are with Michigan going through the gamut of unranked teams, except for the teams they play in conference. They really challenged themselves out of conference, and I'm kidding when I say that. So here we are, PJ. The Big Ten has Michigan on one side and Iowa on the other. And I don't want to take anything away from Iowa. You know, people just kind of neglect the west side of the Big Ten because they're always looking at Michigan and Ohio State. But Iowa, another ranked team who lost to Penn State, who was ranked at the time, they don't have a win over a ranked team all season. They do have a loss to an unranked team, but somehow they're ranked 16th in the nation. What do you have?
Well, I'm not going to watch this game. I'm going to tell you up front because I'm not interested in the game. If I was, I'd probably be expounding about Michigan. To give credit to Michigan, they've won when they've had to.
Yeah.
They beat the Cupcakes. They've done well. I got to give Harbaugh and his guys a bunch of credit, even though he was suspended for 3 games. He probably should be fired for what's happened because of all this stealing signs and stuff like that. But they don't fire people up there, I guess. Michigan will probably win the game. Let's see. Michigan will win the game, Daniel. There's no question about that. And how they win it, that's going to be up to them on the field. If they maybe can win it and show us that they belong in the top 4, they haven't they haven't convinced me at all. They haven't convinced me in 5 years. So I'm going to say Michigan wins the game and probably wins it easy.
Well, that's the thing for me. This Michigan-Iowa game, if Michigan wins, I'm going to shrug my shoulders and say, okay. If Alabama beats Georgia, I'm going to say, oh, okay, that's substantial. So I'm going to choose Michigan to win this game. They'll be in the college football playoff. They were set up to be there at the beginning of the season, and we'll see what happens. You know, I mean, again, I don't hate the Big Ten. I don't loathe the Big Ten. I just want every conference to have a fair footing here, and that's not the case. You know, Michigan has had the setup to win. I mean, all they had to do was win their games, and people will say, well, that's what anybody has to do. Well, that's not true. If that was true, then Cincinnati would have been in the past. UCF would have been in. Liberty would be in right now. Tulane would have a shot. Tulane is 11-1, 8-0 in their conference, and they're barely in the 20 region of the CFP. I think they're ranked 22 right now. They haven't risen them over 22, 21, like that area. So how are they in the bottom? How are they in the 20s when all these other schools, 4 losses, 3 losses are up there? I mean, the reality of the fact is this. If Michigan's always going to start the preseason ranked in the top 4 and they're going to play the schedule they play, they're going to be in the college football playoff every year. And if I can say that without even having to watch a game, that should tell you something about what's fair and what's not fair, is that I expect Michigan to beat a bunch of unranked teams. Michigan has they have a bunch of great players. Michigan has a bunch of guys that they'll send to the NFL that'll be awesome. I'm not saying Michigan's not talented. I'm saying they're not challenged enough. That's all I'm saying. Louisville and Florida State will face off in the final game that we will see here. Well, it's actually going on at the same time as the Big Ten, 8 p.m. Eastern time, both of these games. Big Ten will be on Fox. The ACC will be on ABC. What do you have for this one, PJ? Now, Louisville has had a fantastic season under a new head coach. They're 10-2, 7-1 in the ACC. Florida State's 8-0 in the ACC, 12-0 overall, but they don't have their quarterback, Jordan Travis. So what do you got?
Well, Jordan Travis certainly was one of the 3 quarterbacks that was going to be in the conversation for best player in the country. And unfortunately, I'm sure he broke his leg. I mean, they're hiding it, but I'm sure he broke his leg the way it looked. They are really, really at a disadvantage because their quarterback, I can't even remember his name now, that played Florida. And Florida was an inferior team, and Florida had him beat for a while. I mean, and they just, Florida State has talent. There's no doubt about it. We've talked about this for a couple of years now. We knew what Norvell was going to do, and he's come through. He's done it. It's unfortunate that their season was last week against Florida. They could have tripped up, and their whole season would have been lost. They got the same game again this week. It's their season. If they lose, they're out of the playoffs. If they win, they're going to be one of the top 4. They can't possibly trip up. I saw Norvell just bounce up and down the sideline last week like I've never seen him before. I mean, he was screaming and yelling at the refs, yelling at Florida, yelling at his own team. I'm not sure. He's going to have a heart attack if he keeps doing that. But, Florida State is a big game. Florida State and FSU, Louisville's going to give him a challenge, I'll guarantee you. FSU's going to win this game on defense. Their quarterback not being available is really it's not going to be, if it's going to be a high scoring game, it's going to be on Louisville's end because FSU hasn't got it now without their quarterback. I like Louisville, Daniel, but I'm going to go with FSU.
Yeah,
because their season is Saturday.
Yeah, and Florida State. Listen, Tate Rodemaker. He's somebody that could be their darling, right? He could be a guy that I could see this. I can envision this guy comes in, he does what he needs. Listen, Florida State recruits guys where their backup quarterback should be able to start at most other colleges in Division 1A FBS. So, here comes Tate. Here comes an opportunity. I think he's going to rise to the occasion. I think they're going to win it for Jordan. And I'm going to go with FSU to win this game, to stay undefeated. No disrespect to Louisville. I know Louisville can score a lot of points, but that's the thing. They could score a lot of points. If Florida State could play defense, if they can run the ball with Trey Benson and do the things that they need to do, I think that Florida State, if they can condense the clock, if they can get to the quarterback, and if they can slow down this high-powered, very, very quick, this very speedy offense of Louisville, if they could slow that offense down, then I feel like we're going to be in a place where they're going to move forward. And you know what? The committee has to understand something. It is not Florida State's fault if their quarterback got hurt. They wouldn't punish Ohio State. They wouldn't punish Michigan if this happened. And so they need not punish the Florida State Seminoles if they are able to, if they win this game, which I think they will, then I believe that they should be able to move on and to enjoy everything that the entire team helped to get them to, including Jordan Travis. I'm going to go with Florida State to win this matchup. With that being said, we got to jump quick to the NFL. PJ, we're going to have to run through this gamut fast. There's 6 teams that are going to be off, and those teams that are off this week are Buffalo, Chicago, Vegas, Raiders, Minnesota, New York Giants, and the Baltimore Ravens. So, with that being said, Thursday Night Football, Seattle, they're in a place right now where they have an opportunity to make some special things happen. And if San Francisco is able to beat Philadelphia, then Dallas has a shot at still potentially winning the NFC East. So, I'm going to go with the Cowboys in this one. Seattle hasn't been bad, but Dallas has definitely been turning on and doing some good things. You just got to hope they don't trip up like they did against Arizona. Indianapolis at Tennessee.
Will Levis has really looked good the last couple of weeks. Well, he's looked good since he took over from Tannehill, and I guess Tannehill's not really too happy about that, but that's the NFL not for long is what it is. Indy with our man Minshew is just hanging in there, scoring points, winning games, but Tennessee just is too tough. Tennessee defense should win this game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on the other side of this one. Tennessee has been underwhelming to me. I'm gonna go with Indianapolis to somehow squeak out this victory. I know Tennessee's at home, but Tennessee has had a big-time struggling season, and Will Levis came out playing well in that first game, but it hasn't really looked that great since. It's not that I don't think he has it in him, but I'm going to go with Indianapolis to get the victory here. Chargers at Patriots.
The Chargers where? At what?
Patriots.
At New England?
Yep.
Do we have to play this? No. New England is just awful. It's too bad. Chargers in a walk.
Yeah, I got the Chargers in this one as well. New England is having their worst season thus far under Bill Belichick. He's had some losing seasons, but none like this. Chargers. Detroit at New Orleans, PJ.
Detroit's season is also in front of them. They got a chance to win their division. New Orleans is so. I like Detroit, even though they're playing at New Orleans. I like Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit got beat on Thanksgiving by the Green Bay Packers. MT, I'm sure, was cheering and having herself. I'm sure the turkey tasted even better for MT on Thanksgiving Day. But I'm going to go with Detroit to bounce back and find a way. Atlanta at the New York Jets.
Atlanta at the New York Jets. What an awful game this is. Atlanta at the New York Jets. The talk out of New York is that Aaron Rodgers wants to play this year.
Yep.
So there's a big picture of him in the paper and all this other kind of stuff when you go online. He's not going to play this year. Are you kidding me? I mean, no. I like Atlanta.
Well, remember, the Jets organization is more a Broadway show than it is an NFL team. So they got to have some type of positive news. And if they tell you, oh, Aaron might come back, oh, he's practicing, oh, he tweaked something, oh, he can't come back, oh, no, he might come back. As long as they run the narrative that he could play, fans are going to stay somewhat hopeful and somewhat excited, which will be the way to save their season in the media, but not maybe necessarily what's going to happen. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers, why would you come back and play in this moment right now? But, hey, if he wants to, fine. I think it's more smoke and mirrors. Arizona at Pittsburgh.
Kyler Murray played for Arizona last week. Didn't look all that good. I just don't think he's the quarterback that they think he is. And Pittsburgh won a big game last week. I like Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm going with Pitt. Kenny Pickett hasn't been as bad as people say he's been, so I'm going to go with Pickett. I don't know if Kyler Murray is going to be the head coach wow. Let me start this sentence again. I don't think that Kyler Murray is necessarily going to be the Arizona Cardinals quarterback next season. Just letting you know that. Miami at Washington.
Miami at Washington. It's a 2-time. Easy game.
Yeah, I got Miami too in this one. Washington's all types of messed up. And, they do have some talent on the team, but, they got rid of their entire defensive line. So you can imagine that they're probably looking to make some changes as they do this. They have been MIA at the end of games, not finishing them out, and now they're playing MIA, and I got Miami winning this one. Denver at Houston.
Oh, boy. After watching C.J. Stroud last week, I was pumping him up the last couple of weeks because I think he's going to be an extraordinary young player. This kid is scary. This kid is plain, flat scary. If Trevor had this rookie season that this kid's having, he'd be all world by now. Instead, he had stuck with Urban Meyer or whoever. I don't even remember who we had 3 years ago. But this kid is unbelievable. He throws like a veteran. He runs like a scat back, although he shouldn't run. He did run for some yards last week. We saw two of the best young quarterbacks probably in the history of the game play each other last week. And it was one of the best games I've ever seen. I loved it. And I hated to see some would lose, but I'm glad we won. But the Texans, the Texans have got mojo with this kid, and they got confidence. They got a coach who I don't think has a clue about what's happening because he just walked into a situation where he's going to have the best player in the league probably for the next 10 years. And I don't know anything about the coach, but I know something about this guy. C.J. Stroud is going to be a sensational player for 10 years at least. Okay, I'm done talking.
Yeah, I echo a lot of the sentiments here. Offensive Rookie of the Year is what he's fighting for. I think, you just look at the juxtaposition between Houston last season and Houston this season, Houston the last couple of years and Houston right now. Houston was a team that was at the bottom of the barrel, a team that you thought might have the number 1 pick or the top 2 pick or the top 4 pick, and they've been up there. They've had those picks, and they spent one of them on C.J. Stroud, and look at how it's worked out. This rebuilding, this retooling, this revamping is happening a lot faster, and C.J. Stroud's a big part of that. I got them winning this game, despite the fact that I think people should know Denver's defense is better than you think it is. Carolina at Tampa Bay.
Well, Carolina's the one that's got a lot of drama over there now. They fired their coach. The owner is going around swearing all over the place, and he's saying he made the right choice to get the right quarterback. Well, we know that he didn't make the right choice because Bryce Young is nowhere near as good as C.J. Stroud is. They got some serious problems at Carolina. They probably had him for 3 years ever since this man took over. I don't know how many coaches he's run through, but he's still paying a lot of bucks to get rid of the coaches. Frank Wright has been around a long time. He's a good offensive mind. I guess he couldn't do it. He couldn't put it together. They just picked the wrong quarterback. That's all they did. The guy's not going to admit it, but he did. He picked the wrong quarterback. So he's going to have to live with that, and hopefully little Bama Young is going to come back and prove everyone wrong by the end of this year and maybe next year. With that said, I like Tampa.
Yeah, I like Tampa in this matchup as well. Even if Kyle Trask has to come in because Baker's not 100%, Carolina's just all types of dazed and confused. Cleveland at Los Angeles Rams.
Cleveland at Los Angeles Rams. Did our man Joe Flacco is not going to play ball for Cleveland? Gosh, I love Joe Flacco. The Delaware Blue Hens, something like that. I don't think Joe's got enough to win this game, so I like the Rams.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Rams as well. By the way, the Delaware Blue Hens announced yesterday, and I got to share it, that they are in transition from FCS to FBS, and they will be joining Conference USA to become an FBS team. So shout out to the Delaware Blue Hens, where my man John Strajewski was the kicker for the one and only Joe Flacco. Next one up here, San Francisco at Philadelphia. This could be the NFC Championship game. What do you have, PJ?
This is the game of the week for sure. Boy, Philly pulled it. Jalen Hurts just played a sensational game last week. Somehow we willed his team to win against insurmountable odds. Buffalo just run all over him. Josh Allen was going nuts, but he didn't crack. He stayed tough. San Francisco's a different story, though. San Francisco's got a quarterback that can play up to its level. Their defense is better than Philly's. I know they're playing at Philly, but I like San Francisco.
PJ saying that, San Fran. Now, Philly's found a way to get it done all season long. They found a way, in most cases, except for against the Jets, to get this game done. I'm going to go with San Francisco on this one. I'm going to agree with you on it. There's a lot of weapons with San Francisco. I know the game's in Philly, but I think that Philly might trip up in this matchup, and I'm going to give San Fran the slight edge. It's hard to stop Christian McCaffrey and the rest of the crew at San Fran. Just put the ball in CMC's hands. Kansas City at Green Bay, Sunday Night Football.
Well, I guess Jordan Love has proven me wrong a little bit, I guess. He's turned into a pretty decent quarterback part of the year. But they're playing a team that is a Super Bowl team. And I know that they're playing at Green Bay, and it's going to be probably 1 degree up there with 80 feet of snow on the ground or something like that. But Jordan Love is probably going to see a defense that he's not unfamiliar with. So he's going to get his ass handed to him this week. I like Kansas City.
Kansas City's defense gotten better, bailed out his offense in different ways this season. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. Shout out to Jordan Love, though. Keep playing well. I got a bunch of his rookie cards. I'm trying to sell them this weekend. Monday Night Football, Cincinnati at Jacksonville. The first time the Jaguars will play Monday Night Football in 12 years. I've covered the team for 13, and I've never experienced, I don't believe, a Monday Night Football game on site on location. They have an 8-7 record in their 15 games on Monday Night Football. They're looking to keep that on the positive side of things. Jake Browning will be coming in as the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, as Joe Burrow's season has unfortunately come to an end, and God bless and hope that he will heal and be well and stay well. Even though Jake Browning is the quarterback and it's not Joe Burrow, Jake Browning's done some things. He still has Jamar Chase, he has Tyler Boyd, and he has Joe Mixon. What do you have for this one, PJ?
Well, you know, when the Gurus put this game together, they were thinking, boy, Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow, how great on Monday night. They're going to set all sorts of records. Well, it's too bad. I think that the rest of the country is probably going to see just how good Jacksonville is, and I think that they win. Frankly, I think they win the game rather easily. Jacksonville's defense, when it had to last week, made the plays against a super player in C.J. Stroud. I like them. I like them a lot, and I think they win the game.
Yeah, I think this is one of those games that Jaguars are going to get up to the 30s, and they might hold their... See, this could be a 31-3 type of game. I got Jacksonville winning this one and moving forward here with a record of 8-3 on the season thus far. I'm going Jaguars in this matchup. So is PJ. With that being said, PJ, I thank you for everything you bring to the table. I cannot wait to see you soon at the table. And I hope you and MT and Mr. Joey have a wonderful rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Take care. That coming from PJ here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Going to take our final step aside, wrap up the show right after this. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, the place to go to for your sports card collecting every single day of the week, Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, right off of Teal Ave. If you've never collected cards before, it's a great place to start. If you've collected your whole life, it's a great place to continue. Same hobby, new memories with a fantastic staff that truly cares about you and loves the hobby so very much. So people that get excited and have fun and enjoy every moment of it, they want you to get a pack and get a box and open something great. They want to share that moment with you. So it's great to see that love and that passion and support from the people that are running this business of a wonderful world of sports card collecting that we have such a passion for. So that shared passion and having so many different products, soccer, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and just constantly getting new things in all the time and having incredible cards and a wonderful staff and a welcoming atmosphere makes GG Cards and Breaks the place that you want to go to every week, and you should. 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, right off of Teal Ave. With that being said, I want to give a special thanks to all of my guests today. Thank you for tuning in on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /wakeupcalldt, on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com worldwide, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Of course, you can find us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Big time thanks to our incredible partners in Central and Upstate New York. Head to them today. Carvel DeWitt, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Chick-fil-A Cicerone, Chick-fil-A Clay, PB&J's Lunchbox, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Avicoli's, Canine Campground, Dog Boarding, as well as Pizza Man, Mother's Cupboard, Great Lakes Honda City, and North Star Nutrition and Nutrition Wave. We're proud to be the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins and Bryan and Stratton Syracuse Bobcats. Find them on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt by clicking subscribe, hitting the notification bell, and looking at our Lemoyne and BSC Syracuse playlists. You can get more information on the Dolphins by going to LeMoyneDolphins.com, and more information on the Bobcats by going to Syracuse.bscbobcats.com. With that being said, a big time thanks to Will Hunter and Darius Kelly, two DBs in Syracuse history, talking about Syracuse hiring a DB's coach in Georgia's Fran Brown, and Papa Joe talking about a plethora of topics connected to the wonderful sport of football. I hope you have a fantastic day. Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, X at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. As always, God bless